Hey, how's it going, Average Joes? Today I want to have another nonfiction book and or book video, and today I'm going to talk about my top five or five of my favorite books about productivity and increasing your productivity. So thank you as always for tuning into my channel, subscribing, liking, and doing all those things. Please leave comments down below for however you feel about some of these books, if they've been on your radar, what you think about them. If you need any other recommendations, I like to chat about books and stuff down below. You can also see my Goodreads if you're looking for any other nonfiction or any other type of books. Goodreads link is down below as well. Go and peruse all those because I try and log all of the ones that I put. I don't write many reviews on them, but some of these books, or well, not all of them, but some of them we talk about on my Works podcast. So I can leave a link to, I'll leave a link to one of the reviews down below because we do book reviews on that podcast once a month. And there's also the YouTube version of it. So if you're new to the channel, I'm primarily fantasy, sci-fi, mystery, and thrillers, but I do read some uh, nonfiction. And they're in, I guess you could say, the self-help realm. I just don't like to call them self-help. They're nonfiction, but that's very, very broad. Anyway, it's typically in any sort of productivity, health, fitness, nutrition, leadership. Those are the kind of areas that we kind of go over and do our nonfiction books on. I read one a month, and this has pretty much been going on for years now. So I've accrued a lot of nonfiction over the years, and now we just have it hard set at one per month because we reviewed on the podcast. But even before that, I was doing them through audiobooks, and that's another thing I'll say, that I've consumed all of these, all but one, through audiobooks, and that's 99% of what I do with my nonfiction reads are through audiobooks because I can listen to them a little bit faster, and if I need to go back and listen to them, then I can. But it's not like a fantasy story where you need to like process the world, the magic, picture things as they're describing them, things like that. This is, you can go through these really quick, especially if you can listen to audiobooks. So I would highly recommend that. So now I've done some ones in the past about like the best, my five best being healthy books, five other nonfiction books that I brought up, some of my recent nonfiction reads. So I have a few videos that I'll try and link one of them down below as well. But getting into my top five books on productivity, if you want to be more productive, whether it's in your if you're a content creator, in your content that you're doing, in your work, in your life, in fitness, and anything like that, I would highly recommend any of these because they could be really, really good for you. So the first one is going to be, it's kind of a twofer ish. That's because same writer. One of them, I consider one of them like a part A and then part B, almost like a sequel. But the specific one I'm talking about is Smarter, Faster, Better. And this is the sequel to The Power of Habit. And I think The Power of Habit is a fantastic book about building habits and habits in general. So there's all kinds of books about habits out there. I think I've read three or four of them. And I think Power of Habit's probably my favorite. So I would highly recommend reading Power of Habit, but I specifically want to talk about Smarter, Faster, Better. And it is basically growing on what he went on with Power of Habit, of building your habits. Okay, you have your habits now. Now we need to make everything better. Now we need to make it smarter. We need to make it faster. And through large scope, this was made as very much appeal to like factories, businesses, things like that. But it can help for you as well. Increasing productivity in general is what you can do. It breaks it down into different types of goals that you should be working toward being productive, and even like setting your habits to these goals. And it's not about what, but about how. So a lot of people can tell you what you should be doing, what you need to do, and a lot of people even know what to do. They know what they need to do, but they don't quite know how, and the steps to do that, and things to think about, and changing your perspective on how you should be executing these things, how you should be thinking about these goals, these habits, all of that stuff. And he puts them in a great perspective and has a lot of awesome stories to go along with it. How this has been applied in the real world, in companies, in people. There's mention of like a car factories comparing Toyota with a GMC or car factory in America, how Toyota's factory runs so much better, and they applied that to some American car companies, and they did phenomenal. The movie Frozen, there's some secrets about that. That it went through a lot of changes before it came out and became what it was. They went through a whole rehaul or unhaul or whatever you want to call it. And so there's a story about how Frozen, the movie Frozen, came to be what it is. So just how these processes and being productive and changing your perspective on things really helps. So Smarter, Faster, Better, I definitely recommend. And it's even just a good listen or read anyway, because of all of the specific stories, how these things have been applied in real life. And you can still take away something with it. So it's part entertainment, part productivity and application. Next one, I guess it would be a number 2 in the habit of books of habit about habits books. That would be Atomic Habits. So if you're not going to do the Power of Habit, I would recommend Atomic Habits. Another really fantastic book about habits and how to build your habits. If you need to make a change, whether it's fitness, working out, losing weight, whether it's making more content, learning a new skill, whether it's video editing, anything like that. Power of Habit, building those habits and how to fit it in is a great listen. One of the things it talks about is how a lot of people how trying and planning to do something, saying, okay, I know what I got to do. This is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. You're kind of setting things in motion, but you're not actually doing anything. And this is kind of kicks you in the butt and says, you know what? It's better to actually do something, whether how small it is, than to have a complete plan about what you need to do, because a plan is just a plan. There's nothing, you get nothing out of it besides the plan. It's good if you enact on it, but actually doing is what you need to do. How a delayed return is something you should be familiar with, and how you need to be patient. So we're wired to, repeat activities that reward us, but anything that we get negative feedback from in general, any sort of negative feedback from anything that we do, we avoid from there. But a lot of times when you're building habits and building these things, you're not going to get any sort of return, whether good or bad. It might even be a bad return at first. If you haven't worked out in a year and you start working out, you're going to be sore, you're going to be in pain, you're going to be tired, and that seems like a negative return. But you need to know that there's a delayed return in that. So there's a delayed return in a lot of things, and you should really just focus on the process and the habit that you're building, because the returns and the benefits will come down the road. And it definitely illuminates on that. You need to change who you are instead of what you are. So it's just a frame of reference, frame of mind. And I think one of the examples that they had was like smokers. Whenever somebody offers somebody who's trying to quit smoking, they say, no, I'm trying to quit, versus what they want you to think is, no, I don't smoke. So like if you decide to stop doing something, then that is you are stopping doing something. You're not trying to stop doing something. You have stopped, and that's not you anymore. That's kind of the frame of reference that it's talking about. And it is a big mind shift, and those mind shifts can really help in anything that you do. And this is a common thing in habit books. And I think in The Power of Habit, it had its own version. I think it was called the 1% rule or something like that. It's been in some other books, but in Atomic Habits, it is the aggregation of marginal gains. So that is making yourself a little bit better every day will add up to be better in general. So with the 1% rule, it's doing 1% more every day, making yourself 1% better every day will add up to something large. It's not about making this huge impact right away. Again, you need to be patient with your returns, but that's how habits work. You don't jump off the deep end and to start a habit. You put your bathing suit on first, so to speak. So that little bit of process goal. Atomic Habits, fantastic for building those habits. Next one. This is some would say I could have a bias on this, but whatever. Killing Comfort. And this is actually my boss and my friend wrote this. And another fun fact, I mentioned a little bit in the book, but also I helped create the cover, which I found a lot of fun, and just the fact that I had a hand in. But all of us kind of at the company helps put our input in for the cover and some things like that. So we actually had a process and a hand in creating the book, which is kind of nice. But Killing Comfort, it's kind of in the name. And I am also wearing a Killing Comfort shirt from ours. So my other Killing Comfort shirt I worked out in today. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of in the name, killing comfort. Things that you want to change in your life and things that you need to do in your life are going to be uncomfortable, and people are always seeking the comfortable, and you need to not, basically. And it's how you stick to things in the long run. Stick to things even when they are uncomfortable, even if they're better for you. Now, this isn't seeking out something that's stupid and uncomfortable just to be uncomfortable, but making yourself uncomfortable and doing things to make yourself mentally tougher are great. And there is, again, this is also along the same lines of the aggregation of marginal gains, the 1% rule. And here, Jared tells it daily over decades, and that is just doing something every day to make yourself better for the long run. There's different kinds of mental toughness, and there is I am training for a Spartan race, a warrior dash, a marathon, whatever, and then that is going to be my mental toughness moment to stress myself and whatnot. It's like, okay, those events are great. Those are really pushing yourself to your limits, and you should have things like that in your life to build resilience. But the daily over decades, doing that little bit every day, and that patience that you need is a totally different type of killing comfort. And that is something that you need to develop. And there's the book is all about how to develop those and how to make changes in your life and how to embrace discomfort and make it a big impact. So my dad has also read this book, I think at least 4 times. I was at the house and he read my copy in a couple of days. He went on, bought his own copy, read it. Then he would just go through and mark and highlight and do all these things. And he absolutely loved it. And he's had a couple of, journeys in his life where he's lost a bunch of weight, gained and up and down. But after this most recent one, he's keeps losing weight. And he's been, tons and tons of weight that he's lost and changes in his life and all that stuff. So, chicken or egg, I guess you could say there, but I think does have you could take a lot from this book and the impact that it can have. And it's also probably the shortest on this list. I think it's only like 220 pages, right around 200 pages, super short, concise, to the point application. You're not going to get bogged down with a whole bunch of long stories and formalities and upsells. I know a lot of nonfiction books, especially like productive ones and nutrition ones, they have a lot of upsells. This one is just straightforward, telling you how to do it. So I would highly recommend Killing Comfort. Extreme ownership. This is definitely a one, especially if you're in a leadership role or you want to be in a leadership role, because this is one about leadership and taking ownership in what you do and how you do it. Now, this is good for everybody to do because everybody should have ownership in what they do and how they do it. And especially now, because I think nowadays people are so quick to blame somebody else for their problems and their failings and their misfortunes. It's so easy for people to lay blame on somebody else. Could look back to the freaking McDonald's incident where somebody burned themselves on hot coffee because the cup didn't say hot coffee. Now all their cups have to say hot coffee, stuff like that. Taking ownership into your life and what you've done, I think, is very, very good for not only you, but those around you. And I think it can set a precedence to those around you and those you work with, because anytime somebody does something wrong, then they're the one to own up to it. And then it's shut down right there. It's like, okay, cool. We owned up to it. We know how. Now we just need to know how to fix it. So extreme ownership, very, very good. Pretty heavy on, like, there's a lot of military stuff with it because of who wrote it. And Jocko wrote this one, and he has a very military podcast. He was a Navy SEAL. So there's a lot of references there, but it's still very, very good. And the audiobook is good. He narrates his own audiobook as well. And the last one, I've talked about this in a couple of videos, and this is the one I'll probably link down below the full review, and that is The Art of Impossible. New read for us, and it was very, very good. And it's all about how to achieve something big, some goal that you have. And again, it has that same thing of doing a little bit over a long time, but it also goes into how your brain works and how to change your thinking and how to, I'm forgetting what the term he uses to, but like how to have like enhanced flow. I think it was talking about enhance your creative flow, your mind flow, how your brain works in thinking, changing your surroundings, all of those things, and just a very practical and applicable way of how people who have done ridiculously great things, like Jeff Bezos and all of these millionaires, billionaires and stuff. They didn't start off going, that's where I want to be. They started off much smaller, and it just grew every once in a while. So it makes these large insurmountable goals, breaks them down into much smaller, manageable bites. And that is, there's a whole lot to take away from Art of Impossible. So I would highly recommend that one. I'd highly recommend all of these. They're all very, very good listens. But if you need to be productive, please check out some of these. Again, I said I've done audiobooks on all of these, except Killing Comfort, because I got that copy before the audiobook was even out. But yeah, so let me know if there are some productivity type books, nonfiction books that you have read that you would recommend that are along the same lines of these. I've read several of them. There's some other ones that are just been like okay, but these are probably the best ones that I would recommend to everyone. And yeah, go check them all out now. And let me know what you think about some of these books if you have read them or if you have any recommendations. And we can chat more in the comments.